and then I'll be able to get chat up in a second. Testing 1 2. Hello. We'll get the chat up.
Which chat?
I'm
Both?
streaming on the main YouTube channel, and I'm not streaming on Twitch. So I'm going to, if you refresh that page right there, you'll get the pop out. You'll get the pop out. Hello, everybody. Give me a second while I get the chat on the screen. You'll get the pop out. Hello, everybody. Give me a second while I get the chat on the screen. You'll get the pop out. Hello, everybody. Give me a second while I get the chat on the screen. You'll get the pop out. Hello, everybody. Give me a second while I get the chat. I thought there was a way to do dark mode for that.
Dark mode for chat?
For my, yeah, from it on my end for the stream.
Dark mode for chat?
For my, yeah, from it on my end for the stream.
Dark mode for chat?
For my, yeah, from it on my end for the stream.
Dark mode for chat?
For my, yeah, from it there was a way to do it. And, oh, here we go. Now you can. There was a way to do it. And where is it? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Come on, come on. There was a way to do it. And dark theme equal 1. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Come on, come on. There was a way to do it. Does this work? Dark theme equal. Yes, it does. I just had to trick the URL. Yes, it does. What's happening? Where's the audio coming from? Oh, it's good. Oh, I understand. I understand. Sorry. I had the live stream open in the other tab. Could you hear that? Because I couldn't.
I couldn't hear anything.
My headphones were plugged into the wrong thing.
I'm still not hearing. Should I be hearing something?
I mean, we don't need
to hear anything. Yeah.
To hear anything. I'm doing something in the headphones right now if you want to check, though, in case we do want to.
Yeah, okay, I can hear that.
All right, we're good. All right. And I guess I'll put the YouTube. So I'll read the super chats at the end, everybody. What are we, YouTube now? What am I, some kind of YouTuber? What is this? Some kind of YouTube squad? What are we? All right, got the tab open here, and then I will refresh this later. Okay. All right, so basically, this is a Quickie catch-up stream because I'm leaving for TIFF soon. And there's a bunch of shit that I've watched in the past couple months that I didn't have time to talk about on stream or on the channel. My editors are busy working on the Adam and Pal stuff to try and finish the ones that Scott was still in. So there's multiple being worked on right now. I decided to get Shay here to talk about a movie or two.
Hello.
This is Shay.
How's it going?
Hello. Alien Romulus.
An instant classic.
An instant classic, quote Shay. Directed by Fede Alvarez, if that's how you pronounce his name. I haven't connected with a single one of his movies. The most I've liked one of his movies was Don't Breathe. Not a big fan of Evil Dead 2013. Don't Breathe was fine. It was flawed, but like kind of fun.
Yeah, I thought Don't Breathe was pretty decent.
Yeah.
Evil Dead was one of my least favorite movies.
Yeah.
I really hated that Evil Dead movie. I haven't seen anything else.
Yeah. Well, that's his writing credits, and then directing credits, he did Girl in the Spider's Web, which is kind of funny. But nobody saw that.
Yeah.
So I made a tweet with my rating 4 out of 10 saying worse than Covenant. And a bunch of people got really mad, obviously, because that was destined to happen. But since that tweet, Red Letter Media has come out with their review saying it's bad and worse than Covenant. So I feel validated, not because I hold their opinion as some sort of like arbiter to base my own opinions on, but because other people do. So
At least you're not alone.
yeah, exactly. So my saying it's worse than Covenant is because I would sooner again watch Covenant, because Covenant was at least like bad and funny and trying something new, whereas Alien Romulus was just going through the motions and being significantly worse than everything else that it's copying and just reminding you of other better movies, which is always frustrating. The first 10 minutes of this movie I was into. The first 10 minutes, it was like a drastically different pacing and tone and atmosphere. I was like, oh, wow, they've actually got like a mood here. And then as it moves on, I don't know. I think I was checked out as soon as the exposition started happening, when it was this cast of like a bunch of kids just being like, oh, here's what we got to do, and you have the robot that can do this thing. And it was at that moment where I was starting to space out, and I was realizing I don't care about any of these characters. They're not interesting. A good reminder of the original Alien. Sorry, 1 second. A good reminder of the original Alien. Part of what made it work is that the characters are really strong and they're really interesting. And even if you ignore Ripley, even if Ripley wasn't in the movie, you'd still have like great watchable characters. And this movie doesn't have a single one of those. Like maybe at most the android was like kind of interesting and that's it.
Even the second Aliens was like just loaded with characters that were better, more compelling, you know? Even like the characters only had a few lines that were more or less just the soldiers in there. You still kind of cared about them, and I don't know. I didn't find myself captured by any of the characters in Romulus, except for the droid character had some good stuff. He had some good moments.
Yeah, he had some good moments. Renegade Wobot is what I call him. Other notable character in Romulus include British man, there's two British men and their brothers. One of them you can understand, the other one I could not understand the entire movie. The mustache one, the puberty mustache, where he's like, "There's something in the fucking water," which can't say that I'm copying Red Letter Media by quoting that line, because I was quoting it before them in my trailer reaction. So they stole from me. But yeah, I couldn't understand a word that he said throughout the entire film except like that. And it was very funny. Like his performance I couldn't really take seriously. It was a weird addition to the cast of characters. Yeah, so as the film goes on, it's just, I hate how gratuitous it is with the member berries aspects of it. Like, okay, if you want to do an homage to a previous film or even a shot or a scene from a previous film, sure, whatever. But it's like every single time they introduced one of the forms of the alien, they did it in a way where they were expecting the audience to like stand up and clap, as if it was one of those like, you know, Mufasa walks out in the 2019 Lion King, like, oh, woo, yeah. Oh, we're about to see oh, dude, wow, dude, the head crab or chest burster or whatever. Like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, like we've had them for like 40 years now.
Yeah, it's been 40 years.
And they showed all of it by like Alien. Like in Alien, they really they built it up, and the character design like really had that profound effect. But even by Aliens, they know like, you know, it doesn't really carry the same weight anymore, and so you have to do something with it.
Yeah, they were literally just doing the whole like fan service kind of. Oh, aren't you excited to see this? Like when they have the characters that are in the chambers that are locked and there's the water, whatever, right before the head crabs. Like before they even reveal the head crabs, there's this like slow shot in a room that they're not in. None of the characters are in this room, but they show a shot of just a computer screen and then that computerized image of a head crab slash, I'm confusing Half-Life, of a
face
hugger.
Yeah.
A face hugger. Just to be like, ooh, that's coming up, as if we couldn't tell or as if we hadn't seen the trailer. And then this is kind of like a nitpicky thing here. This happens a lot in like older movies, I guess, with small creatures that are attacking people. But a lot of those are like really shitty B movies. But it happened in this movie where the face hugger, it didn't immediately get them. They like put up a fight, which was kind of interesting, where it didn't like the two British guys never actually got face hugged. And as they're showing the face hugger and they're like battling it off or whatever, there's a shot where the guy's got the face hugger and it's like up against his hands and he's like and you can tell he's like using all of his strength to like push it away from his mouth. But his hands are on it, and it's like, okay, well, it's not attached to the ground or anything. It doesn't weigh a million. The strength that it's not flying. It doesn't have wings that it's flapping behind it. So where's the propulsion forward coming from for the face hug? Because no matter how strong it is, if it's on your hands, you should be able to move your hands further away from your face. Maybe you can't get it off your hands. Maybe it's attached to your hands so strong. But it shouldn't be up here. Like, what force is being generated to make your hands close to your face and not far away from your body? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think they're supposed
That's
to
a very weird thing.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to have a tail that like wraps around their neck or something.
But it wasn't.
But yeah, no.
It wasn't wrapped around their neck.
I recently watched Aliens, and I will say I had the same gripe. They had a scene where it was just like, no, like, at some point in time, they're not attached to anything, and the physics of where you're pushing away from.
Yeah.
There's no counterforce to it.
No. They're farting really powerfully in the other direction.
Yeah.
And propelling themselves forward, but they forgot to add the fart sound effects. I think if somebody made an edit of that, it would help. You go. Maybe like its tail was kind of like down, and it's like, okay, if we were imagining like, okay, is the tail grabbed to his shirt? Like, you'd think the shirt would like stretch out or something, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that like they didn't think of the physics of it, and I don't know. It just bothers me and not a lot of other people. So I'm gonna add to the text here spoiler discussion, because we're gonna be talking spoilers for this movie, because how can we not? So in this film, the way that they deliver information is so fucking clunky and so weird, where it feels like multiple different writers, because it doesn't, I mean, it is multiple different writers, but it feels like a lot of what they communicate or insist that they have to communicate doesn't necessarily flow from one thing into the other in the way that it's implied. So one example of this is they have, obviously they have a robot character, and then the robot character is with the pube mustache British guy. And our main character, and I think the British guy's brother, they're having a conversation somewhere else, and they're like on the walkie-talkie and just kind of seeing whatever they're up to. And she's like, why does he hate robots so much? And then he tells a story. I think it was this character that told the story. I don't remember which, but they tell a story like the robot killed his mother. And by killed, I mean he closed the door that she was behind to save like 8 other people on the other side of the door, because if he opened the door, then all of them would have died. So he made a calculated decision. And they really hammered down this information. Like, she's asking questions. She's like, well, I thought robots weren't allowed to harm people. It's like, oh, but he wasn't harming people. It was a calculated decision. It's the trolley problem. They were doing a trolley problem, and they felt the need to explain that because the robot character in this film goes through his own 2 different trolley problems. So it's like they felt the need to explain that. And then the first trolley problem this robot goes through is he tries to hunt down the infected girl, the one with the face, who now has the alien baby in her tummy. in her chest. And so he's like, okay, well now I gotta hunt her down because otherwise everybody else is gonna die. Even though his prime directive at that point isn't protect the main character because he switched out the chip in his brain. Nonetheless, that's a part of the decision-making process. There's a trolley problem. And she seems confused by it. The second trolley problem that the robot experiences is the actual pregnant lady, pregnant with a human fetus, is behind a door, and the fully formed, like, regular alien now is
The
behind
xenomorph.
her, waiting for the xenomorph is now waiting for the door to open so it can kill everybody. And the main character, again, still doesn't understand this because the robot's just like, okay, this is a trolley problem. If I open that door, we're all going to die. He even says out loud, it's waiting for us to open the door so it can kill all of us. I'm not opening the door. And then because he made that decision, now the main character, who didn't know that, like, he has a different prime directive, is now questioning his prime directive. And she says, wait a minute, you just did that? What's your prime directive now? Even though his previous prime directive was to save her, which is not out of line with what he just did. If his previous prime directive was save the main character, he did something perfectly in line, in a way that she should completely understand, because she was explained this ad nauseum 10 minutes beforehand about the trolley problem and robots doing that. She was explaining this very clearly, and she's like, wait, what's your prime directive? As if he did something that contradicted that. And then for some reason he tells her, and he's like, my prime directive is to help the company, actually. She's like, oh, and then that introduces the conflict now of like, oh, now she has to find a way to remove his chip or fix his chip or change his prime directive so that he's not under the control of Wayland or whatever.
Even though his actions were protecting her, actually.
Exactly.
Like, completely in line with his prime directive before. No need to question the prime directive. Although, if they had a gun, like, the other thing is, the aliens seem really killable. And so if you have a gun, it's like, they just don't seem that threatening. You know? The facehuggers actually seem more threatening.
But it's in space, and
the xenomorphs.
It'll rip a hole in the ship if gravity goes down, but it won't rip a hole in the ship if gravity doesn't exist, even though the blood would propel itself outward.
Yeah.
And continue going.
That was only when they were on the bottom floor. They really weren't worried about it if they were at a high enough floor.
Yeah. Yeah, the way that... So throughout the film, there's quite a few... there's quite a few setups and payoffs. And when they set things up, it's really obvious that they're setting it up, and you're like, okay, they're going to use that again later. They show the floating rat, then they have the characters in this very video gamey fashion being like, oh, the gravity turns itself back on repeatedly. It's doing like a system flush, or however they described it. So that'll happen every like 2 minutes. It's like, okay, this is happening in a very low stakes environment now. Obviously, it's going to happen in a high stakes environment later. When the girl finds like the X-ray thing and she uses it on her arm, she's like, oh, cool, right? That's obviously going to be set up and used later. And then when they use these things later, you know, she literally for like a split second, this girl that's got the face that just got a face hugger on her a minute ago runs into the pod, uses the thing on her back, and is like, oh, you see? And then like just literally 1 second, even less worth of just her showing it off, and then just starts spasming on the floor. It's like, okay, that wasn't really used for anything other than you thought it looked cool, and that's about it. And it didn't look cool, and it just felt clunky and weird. And then the entire the payoff to like the gravity thing could have been interesting, but it just felt like another one of those like, oh, it just got her at the last second sort of things, which happened a lot. You know, she's like about to jump off, and then an alien like grabs her foot, like, if only it was like half a second later, or you know, like,
and to go like that whole like, oh, we're really big into practical effects, and then have that sort of no gravity super CG scene.
I mean, yeah, they did use practical effects. There were some good practical effects, but like
definitely,
it's just the marketing always exaggerates that kind of thing.
Yeah, you kind of undercut the tonal. I don't know. For me, a little bit.
Yeah. Fucking CGAI Bilbo was terrible looking, genuinely terrible looking. And we've seen in other movies throughout the past decade plus of people, reanimating old characters or like de-aging, like dead actors and stuff. But in this one, it looked so bad. It looked so inconsistent with what we have seen throughout the entire, like the people that would recognize him would recognize that it looks terribly off, and not convincing. And if you're making an alien movie for a new generation, it's like, okay, I would rather have something that alluded to previous events. I would rather have something where you could have fan theories and clues and hints connecting it to the other alien films rather than it just explicitly doing that in one of the most obnoxious ways possible.
But we just want to be reminded that those other movies exist.
Like explicitly reminded. Let's see. I've got my notes here. Let's see what else I got on my notes. Yeah, there's a pretty much exactly what I was saying. The Dude Pride Rock is one of my notes. Oh God, the jump scares in this movie were terrible. There were 3 of them. Every single jump scare was so fucking lame and incredibly ineffective and just embarrassing. Like really terrible sound design when it came to those jump scares. Obviously not diegetic. Which just, it kind of like made scenes worse. Like it made me feel like that whole them sneaking around the head. I'm just gonna keep calling them head crabs. I don't care. Them sneaking around the head crabs scene and this super tense scene where they get like a little pep talk from the robot before, and again very video gamey, but not in a good way. He's like, if you get too excited, they'll see your temperature, and if you sweat, then your body will cool down, so you can't get goose pimples. Also, otherwise they'll see you in the other way. So it's like, oh, I guess we gotta be quiet, so they can't hear. I guess because they weren't. Like, I don't know, like their hearing is not that great, maybe. Their heat vision's better. But anyway, that ultimately just led to jump scare of an unrelated thing of just a guy hanging from the ceiling. Like it's a fucking shitty local town haunted house attraction. That was so lame. And then just the loud noise that obviously isn't diegetic and just comes from the movie and not the universe. Because if it was, then there would be no reason why they would have to be quiet. So obviously they can hear something, right? The loud noise would have alerted them.
Yeah, but I do think they had to be quiet. Because they could hear. Because they were being quiet when they were creeping through the hallways. But it seemed like they only had to be so quiet.
Pretty quiet.
I mean, a sound is just like you can just move away from where you made the sound, right? So I guess it's not.
Throw a rock
good.
somewhere else. If your heat is matching the ship, throw a rock in the corner and watch them scurry towards the rock.
Yeah. Which seemed like it would have been a decent strategy.
Yeah.
But they were kids, so they didn't know that.
Yeah, it's funny because it almost felt like the fact that they were just a bunch of kids and not scientists was the film's way of explaining why all the characters were going to be stupid. Which I was on board for because I kind of knew you go into a space horror movie. It's like, okay, there's a reason why every character has to die eventually, except maybe one. So they all got to be absolutely stupid. So in Prometheus, it's like, okay, why are these scientists so dumb? Whereas in this one, it's like, okay, they're just a bunch of dumb kids.
Yeah. And then they had a smart robot for a while, and then they were like, no, I like the robot less smart.
Oh my God. So they have a scene where they're explaining like a serum to help stop like some sort of like infection or something. And they're like, we used it on the rats. And then the characters leave and the camera goes back to this location and just shows us the exploding rat. Their like head explodes. And they're just like they might as well have had a loud jump scare sound there because it would have been just as appropriate as any of the other times they did it. That was funny. But then like within 5 minutes, one of the characters is like, "Oh, I'm dying." And the robot's like, "Let's use the serum. It's been tested on rats, and rats share most of their DNA with humans." And the main character, who never saw the rat explode, but just has the best intuition, she's like, "No, this doesn't feel right." It would have been more interesting if we didn't see the rat explode, because then we wouldn't know immediately she's doing the right thing. Because she doesn't know. She just has the best intuition. But we as the audience members are like, how does that benefit the audience that we know the outcome of that, especially when you're not going to even tease the idea of them using it? Like maybe it would be more interesting if they did use it, because then we'd be like, oh, okay, I guess that guy's gonna heads exploding later or something, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't use it, and there was not even really much of like a question as to whether or not they would. It was resolved pretty quickly.
It seemed like they wanted to have connections to all of the movies that predated it, so that, you know, if you were there because you liked a certain movie, you were going to get your proper fan service. And so I think maybe that was... I haven't seen Covenant, but that seemed like the Covenant fan service, maybe?
Yeah, well, I don't...
If there's Covenant fans?
Well, there's... I don't know. No, not many people like Covenant, but it's still... I would still rather watch Covenant than this. It's not good. It's funny. It's at least trying something different. It's also fucking weird how they canonized the like Covenant and Prometheus shit, where they're like, these are the next step in human evolution. And then we see it at the end of the movie, and it's just some tall guy who smiles. It's like, oh, that's why the alien's so important to you, is to make a tall guy.
Yeah, that was a weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that kind of sucked. That was a really unsatisfying like creature villain in general. And then she's about to open the hatch, and there's two handles, and she gets the first one, and then just as she's about to get the second one, it pushes her over, and she's like, ah! But then the rope that's attached to her also is wrapped around the handle, and she didn't know that. There was no indication that she knew that, but immediately, you know, when she like pulls it, she's like, "Die, motherfucker!" Like has the one-liner.
Yeah.
Like in reality, like the character would be saying like, "Ah!" Like she'd be confused, right? Like shit's like falling through her and around and everything. Like that was kind of odd.
Everything worked out really perfectly.
They had so many moments where they were trying to be super cool. So the ship is exploding at the end. And it's crashing slowly on the planet, like the station ship, and then the main characters make it to the pod, and on the pod there's Bilbo, who is having this conversation with them, and at this moment I forgot that Bilbo was canonically still on the station that is currently crashing and exploding, because it made it pretty, like, it made it seem like they just got out of the station just in time before it like got eviscerated, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But apparently he's in the one room at the very edge corner that hasn't gotten goofed yet, and his gravity in that room's totally fine. Like all the systems are fine, lights and everything.
Yeah, the ship is totally fine until that part of the ship gets destroyed.
Yeah, each room is its own contained ecosystem. Yeah.
The gravity isn't like some central unit. It's
the gravity
everywhere.
Unit.
It's distributed.
There's one per room.
Yeah.
And I was like, I completely forgot that it was even implied that he was still on the ship. And they have this long conversation, like 2 minutes long conversation, as the ship, like the thing is just blowing up and crashing, I guess. And then I clued in, oh, I guess he's actually on it, because the whole reason of them showing that conversation is literally just to have this fake sense of satisfaction for the main character, where she's like, actually, I deny your application, because at the beginning of the film, she was denied an application by Wayland Industries, and this is her like, oh, I'm getting back at Wayland because this robot is Wayland. And that was it. And then he just blows up and dies, and he would have anyway, but he survived just long enough to hear that, as if that matters, and as if that's satisfying at all, and not like the dumbest fucking thing.
Yeah. I think they just really wanted to give people more Ian Holm.
Yeah,
you know?
more nostalgia at the expense of making like an interesting movie with interesting characters. It's just, I'm so weirded out by this, by how many people seem to love it. The Metascore for it is like the same as Alien Covenant. So I once again feel vindicated by the Metascore. Rotten Tomatoes is not. Rotten Tomatoes is way higher, but Rotten Tomatoes is weird with how they aggregate and less accurate, in my opinion.
I think if you give it time, the score is gonna drop.
I mean, that's usually what happens, yeah. It's a very forgettable film.
I mean, I think people like this kind of movie right now. I think people generally like the new Star Wars movies.
I think there's something particular about space horror where people are looking for that itch to be scratched so badly that they'll just take anything. Remember Life with Jake Gyllenhaal? That's one that I bring up often, because if I didn't, everybody would forget it existed.
No, I actually...
People liked that when it came out.
I think I watched like 4 minutes of it. But there's like a bunch of them that came out at the same time that were all very similar. Because there was also the Robert Pattinson space movie. The Claire Denis one.
That one was not widely accessible. That was a slow...
Was it not a big movie? I thought
no,
it was.
it wasn't.
Okay.
Are you thinking of Ad Astra?
No. That was the Brad Pitt one, right?
Yeah, that Claire Denis movie I don't think was huge or anything. I don't think people raved over that one, or at least non-critics maybe.
There was just like 6 or 7 movies there that got released at the same time that were all, in my mind, like blurred together.
And they might as well be. Anyway, this movie was really fucking rushed, clunky, too much fucking stupid, inappropriate fan service, member-berry, dumb bullshit that took away from the narrative, took away from the experience and the tone. First 10 minutes were great. The rest of it just fell downhill really quickly. Not scary, not satisfying, not cool. Why the fuck did any character say, "Get away from her, you bitch"? Like, okay, that's so stupid. It's so dumb. 4 out of 10 for me. Very forgettable. Bad movie.
Yes. Yeah, I'd go like I'd probably even go 3, but it was, yeah. I was expecting like something in the 4 or 5 range, and it was slightly disappointing.
Yeah, I know, right? My expectations weren't high or anything. I was just going into it like open-minded. That's about it.
Yeah.
All right. Another movie that we both saw together, In a Violent Nature, if you wouldn't mind talking about that as well, because I haven't talked about that on my channel at all.
What was In a Violent Nature?
It was the gimmicky
yes.
horror movie where it was Friday the 13th, but if you followed the killer, it was a killer's perspective. It was like a Wim Wenders Perfect Days horror movie. And it was a very relaxing, heavy,
meditative.
You know, nature vibes you can slash people to. It was interesting. I wasn't necessarily disappointed by it, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And I didn't love it, but I loved things that it was doing. And I was into what it was trying to do more than what it was as like a whole. 4:3 aspect ratio. So interesting choices there. Lack of music, which is nice. A lot of things are like really music heavy and kind of lame that way. It's very artfully shot. It's slow. It's patient.
It was a mix of like art house and like low budget horror.
Yeah,
Which
like
was,
cheesy low budget horror.
which was
like
a little
the
bit
gore was
weird.
over the top.
Yeah, a little bit weird tonally. I don't know that it worked fantastically.
They made
But
something unique though.
I kind of liked it, I guess. I definitely thought there was some fun stuff in it. It was interesting enough for a one-time watch.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't watch it again. If they cut it down to like an hour,
if it was a 70-minute film, I think it would work better.
Yeah.
Right now it's an hour 34.
It's
an hour and a half movie that
yeah.
feels like 2 hours.
Yeah, if it does feel, you feel the length, because I mean, like, there's not a lot of music, and
not a lot happens.
It's very slow paced. Yeah. And so yeah, with the runtime, it definitely felt long, but there was a lot of good, interesting stuff in it.
Yeah, and my biggest gripe with the movie is that they never fully committed to the concept, as in, I think 80% of it was from the killer's perspective, but the worst scenes were the ones that weren't.
Yeah,
and they just decided to have really long, painfully acted scenes of these like dumb teenagers that were acting terribly, but not in a way that you could even say is homage. Right? It was like that one girl in the campfire scene at the beginning of Wendy and Lucy. Like, you've never acted before. The dialogue is clunky, and not even a good actor could deliver this. And it's shit, and not in a way that it seems self-aware. Like, you can't just be like, oh, because it's a slasher movie, the acting's supposed to be bad. They were just like annoying, useless characters that didn't even feel reminiscent of that somehow.
Yeah, if you just shorten it up and filmed it from like a faraway perspective, like from the killer perspective, I think it would have been just as good, if not better.
And those scenes dragged on for so long and gave us information that we didn't need. And I guess spoilers for people who haven't seen it. It's not really much of a spoiler. By the end of the movie, we are no longer following the killer at all, which is annoying. And at that point, it's like, okay, this makes sense for an ending scene, but then the ending went on for fucking like 15 minutes, or what felt like maybe 15 or 20, but was probably 10. And this old lady just droning on and trying to be like, say meaningful lines that are supposed to be, I don't know, like thematically relevant or poetic or something. And I was just so ready for the movie to end at that point that in my head I was just like Saw 7, like, just shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Like, why didn't you just shut the fuck up?
Yeah, they kind of wanted to do both. They kind of wanted to do a classic like B horror movie slasher and a film from the perspective of the killer.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think though, if they just fully committed to just the perspective thing,
I would have liked it.
It would have been a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It's frustrating because the tones are so conflicting in that sense.
Yeah, it would have been hard though to keep to make him an hour 34 just from his perspective.
It doesn't need to be an hour 34.
Really dragged.
There's some movies that are fucking awesome that are literally like 60 minutes or like under an hour, and they're technically feature length because it only has to be 40 something.
Yeah, but nobody's making 40-minute films.
Some people are. Well, not very many.
I mean, like, they're not making it to theaters, right? Like, if you're aiming for a theater release, unless you're doing a double header, right? Like, exactly. Film festivals, yeah, you could hit film festivals with a 40-minute film, but a wider theater release, like, you're probably thinking I at least have to get to an hour 15, hour 20.
Yeah. So I love what it tried to do. There's some like really imperfect execution, no pun intended, in some of these scenes. Very wooden and annoying characters with awful dialogue. The film itself is trying to exist in a weird space, and so I applaud it for being ambitious. Oh God, there was a scene, I'm looking through my notes. The ending was really clunky when they were like setting the trap for him. That was really weird. And there's like weird light sources too, where it's like, okay, why can I see this character being lit from behind the camera, even though the camera itself isn't like a character with a light or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, it manages to be tense and exciting for parts of it.
Yeah.
And I really like some things near the end too. Just like the shot of the woods, and you're like kind of wondering.
Yeah, and there's some fun like gore scenes or kill scenes.
Yeah, it would have been so much better at like 70 minutes.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be difficult to trim it to that at all. It would be actually very easy to make a fan edit of this and just trim it down. So
to some degree, you could cut off just the end. You could cut off almost 15 minutes at the end.
There's things I like about the ending, but you could cut out a good chunk from the ending. I don't think I would get rid of the ending.
I might have gotten rid of the car scene, which I think was fairly long. I don't know.
I like where the car scene leads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like where it winds up. All right. Another thing that I watched with Shay, The Sympathizer. It's the new HBO Max series from Park Chan-wook, the director of Old Boy, the director of The Handmaiden, Thirst, Vengeance Trilogy, bunch of shit. One of the best directors ever. I think he's fantastic. Yeah. This is a, like 7 episodes series?
Yeah, I think 7.
Yeah, 7 episodes. And I'll just read the IMDb blurb if people want like a plot synopsis, I guess. Near the end of the Vietnam War, a plant who is embedded in the South Vietnam Army flees to the United States and takes up residence in a refugee community where he continues to spy and report back to the Viet Cong. I thought that this was pretty great. And it's not perfect, but it was interesting throughout. I liked the dynamics that it was setting up, the conflicts, the characters. Love the directing in many of these episodes. The classic Park Chan-wook scene transitions were just like mind-blowing in some in some episodes, because he directed a few of them. He didn't direct every single one. There's Robert Downey Jr., and he plays like 6 different characters. And it's really, really fun to watch. It's like, actually, that's like one of the best parts about the show. It's the most I've ever liked Robert Downey Jr., and he does a great job. And one of the characters he plays is like a flamboyant gay guy, and one's a hard ass, and one's a director, and like I can't go into too much detail about this show, but it is a great watch, a great like show to binge. It was for me anyway. So.
I really, really liked it.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the favorite series that I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah.
Really, across the board, like just everything about it was good. I think the front half of it was stronger, but all in all, like, I could watch the whole series again right now. There was so much. It was well shot. The music was great. You know.
All right, bye, Pika PD. Bye bye. Have fun being a dog. There are some complaints I have about the show, but they're like not too memorable and not too consequential. Lots of really incredible editing choices, lots of great writing choices. It's also very funny, and it has a good sense of humor that's like really intentional. That's one of the better parts about it. And it also gets like really emotionally intense at parts too. I think maybe I would have preferred, again, you say the second half is weaker. I would have preferred like perhaps a different direction for where the story wound up going, maybe. But still, it was very, very fun to watch. Awesome show. Mm-hmm. I'm giving it a high 7. And we'll see if I give it an 8 on a second watch or something.
Yeah. I'd give it Man, I'd give it like an 8.5. I really liked it. I could watch it again probably right now, just front to back.
Another show that Shay and I watched.
Oh God.
I just went through my IMDb ratings and like found some things that I haven't talked about yet. Up on the Wooftop, 2015. It was on my hard drive of things for 2015, 2016 because I just download anything that's like on my watch list, and some things are on my watch list because they're going to be good. Some of them are obviously just going to be bad. This is something that I had on my watch list because in one of the Everything is Terrible films, they included a clip from the trailer that it just never left my mind, where it's one of those like shitty talking dog movies where it's a real dog, but they decide to move the mouth like in this terrifying, uncanny valley way. And it's really low budget too, so it's not done well at all. The line, the girls, the dog is like from the North Pole and he's magic and can talk to people sometimes. Only children, because they still believe in magic, I think was the explanation. And other dogs. He can understand other dogs and they speak English, but the other dogs can't speak to people, but he can speak to people and only children because children still believe in magic. So he like hitches a ride on Santa's sleigh and then falls through a chimney and goes into this little girl's room. She's like, "What the heck?" He's like, "Where am I?" She's like, "We're in Iowa." And he says, "Iowa what?" And that just that line has like never left my brain. And I was like, okay, I gotta watch this eventually. And so some months back, Scott died, rest in peace, and I just needed to watch some funny bad thing with some friends, so didn't really feel like working on anything serious. And so we watched this, and I think it's free on YouTube. And it's one of those movies where like there's a bunch of terrible acting from the human characters. One of the dogs, I think maybe the main dog is played by Preston Lacey from Jackass, which was very confusing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Preston Lacey played, I think, the main dog. He played Rusty. Which one was Rusty? Which was the main dog again? Was it Rusty?
I have no idea. I think that sounds like the main... No. The main dog was Toby.
Toby was the main dog?
Toby
Adam
was the
Hicks.
main
Okay,
dog.
Rusty was another dog. So Preston Lacey from Jackass played a dog for some reason. And then they'll have these scenes of these dog characters. They'll have these scenes of these dog characters. Just one second. I'll continue where I left off. I'm just responding to a message. They have these scenes of these dog characters and these like mini narratives, like one's a bully and he's a chihuahua. He's like, "I'll kick your ass." He doesn't say that because it's a kid's movie, but he's like, "I'm going to bully you. I bet you can't pull this piece of wood from one end of this wall to the other." And then he's like, "Oh, you're making fun of me." But they don't know how to anybody that knows anything about like any kind of animal ever can just tell like, okay, the Chihuahua is shivering, right? The Chihuahua is shivering because it's cold. It's cold and they don't have much hair and they're a small creature.
Yeah.
And they're forced to be doing this in front of a cat. It's literally shivering. And meanwhile, the dialogue is like, "I'll kick your ass," or "I'm a bully," right? It's just like, it's so... Like there's no fluidity to it. It doesn't match. So you never believe, like through any kind of like body language or anything, that any of these dogs even match the characters of the voice or anything.
Yeah, the dogs are not so much acting dogs as they're just
there.
Dogs that they found and could follow basic instructions. But they weren't great at expressing emotions. I mean, the lead dog better than the other dogs. But in general, yeah. I like talking dog movies, but I don't know. It was
definitely a watch because it's gonna be a shitty movie. And we got that, and it was funny. And then what happened? Did a girl like steal a car?
There was an episode where like a 12-year-old stole a car and was a pretty good driver.
Okay.
Everything worked out okay.
Yeah, it ended like in a mall. There were like criminals, obviously, like the stereotypical, like, we gotta steal something. Yeah, and then the dog keeps like
Home Alone.
Yeah, foiling their plans for some reason or another. And it's like, I'm magic. Oh, you magic dog. What? So terrible. Shay, did you watch Ren Faire with me?
Yes.
Yes, you did. Okay, we're going to talk about Ren Faire. And then I think that's the last of the ones that we saw together. Ren Faire is the new documentary series on HBO Max. It came out like a few months ago, actually, at this point. Lance Oppenheim is the director's name. And I've seen two of his other projects. His other projects were films, and I loved both of them. One was Some Kind of Heaven. The other one was Sperm World, which I talked about on the channel as well. And Ren Faire came out on HBO Max. And again, this was like around Scott's death, so I didn't make a video on it right away because I got fucking overwhelmed and busy. But I watched this, and it was a great like character study, great concept. So essentially, this is a documentary, but it feels like a narrative film, which is basically every Lance Oppenheim documentary, even though this was a series, but it's always so well shot and so like kind of dreamlike in presentation, and they do these extra little like additional flares and creative choices that make it seem like if you didn't know it was a documentary going into it, you might not even realize that. Just one of those things, I guess, to do with like media literacy, if we're going to say that. So there's actually points in this documentary where they even do some things like there's almost like a dream sequence. Like they have a character and then like a reverse shot of another character that speaks to him and is kind of playing on his insecurities. It's like, okay, that's obviously like a dubbed over line, and we're not supposed to be taking that literally. And so it kind of respects the audience in that way for you. It doesn't treat you like an idiot, and it thinks that like you're smart enough to be able to determine those things in the series.
Yeah, it's an unconventional documentary series because, I mean, like, for one, the shots are also just, like, fantastic. They're shots that you just don't usually see in documentary-style filmmaking.
Above and beyond.
Artistic, They're not just, like... maybe, like, there's an artistic sense. It's not a truthful documentary, in a sense. It's grander than that. Like the characters are also like fantastic.
Yeah, that's one thing that Lance Oppenheim is really good at. Like every single one of his documentaries features some really fun to watch people.
Yeah. It's not just one or two. It's like everybody in it is like fantastic.
Yeah, and they're all their own unique characters. Yeah. That it's like, how did you find these people? Yeah. And then also not only finding them, but getting the right things out of them, and I guess like asking the right questions or filming them at the right moments, or even just editing choices. Like the one guy who's like a fucking caffeine taurine junkie, and there's just like this sequence of like so many in a row where he's just like crushing a Red Bull, and then the shot of the mug on his desk where he's like sober for 10 years or something, or 1 year sober. It's like, okay, you're compensating for something, and it tells a story of its own in that way, just through like what it's showing without explicitly stating it, which I think is fun.
Yeah.
Sperm World is my favorite out of the things that he's made. Yeah, highly recommend Ren Faire. It's on HBO Max. Great show. It's only 3 episodes, and it's such a fun drama. It's like this Game of Thrones style, like who's going to take the place of as king of this real life character who's presiding over this Renaissance fair in Texas. That's this guy like built his own city
Yeah,
right?
it's a documentary, but it's also just like it's a film. Like
Yeah.
it's got a great story to it and great characters, and yeah, he just seems to be able to get shots and content that you just don't expect people to get in a
Yeah.
documentary, to turn it into like a fantastic, like constantly exciting, edge of your seat kind of
Yeah.
show, you know?
It's very funny, and especially for people like me that just love seeing like a good character piece.
Yeah.
There's so much to get out of all of these characters, and they're just captured in the right way and edited in the right way. It could have been a feature too. Like, it's only 3 episodes, so like, I mean, it could have been trimmed down to like 2.5 hours, honestly, and it could have been made as a feature, but I guess it was just greenlit as a Max documentary. But
yeah,
either
3
way,
hours. 3 hours isn't bad for a movie, anyways.
Yeah.
A movie this good, you could easily just show it all as one. But yeah, both formats work for me.
Yeah, it was incredible. Lots to chew on and just get out of these characters and the real life dynamics of these people. It's like you would expect them to be like a written narrative, but it's just they're these people, and they don't even understand that they're like living their lives in a movie, basically, which is fun.
They're fantastic characters. Yeah.
So great, fantastic series. Love me some Lance Oppenheim.
Yeah.
Check out all of his shit. Sperm World's the best one. All of them have been like 8 out of 10 or higher. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm right there. 8 out of 10, 8.5. Yeah.
All right, and then the rest of it. Did you watch Mars Express?
Nope.
Okay.
I think Mars Express.
That was great.
Sounds familiar.
You have the Blu-ray.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the rest of these things that I'm talking about, Shay has not seen. So you're free to stay, but
no, I'll leave you to it. Just to avoid any spoilers for the ones that I haven't seen.
Sense. Sure.
But yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining, Shay.
Yeah. All right, have a good one.
And yeah, feel free to pick whichever meal thing you want.
Will do.
There's 2 turkey recipes, and one of the turkeys was we threw out because it was like punctured. So I was almost thinking of like for the one like the pesto rice one, or maybe even the noodle one. Those are the 2 ones that are left. I was almost thinking of just like putting hot dogs in the noodles or something, because we have hot dogs. Because like that would be fine, and then you could just.
I'll try and settle some today.
Sure. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Whichever one you want. Thank you so much. All right. Next one. We've got. I saw the TV glow. People have been asking me to talk about this for a while. A24 film directed by Jane Schoenbrunn. And they directed a movie that I very much enjoyed, but, with a grain of salt at the same time, called We're All Going to the World's Fair. And this was something I saw at Fantasia, I think, a few years ago. And it was super low budget. It was like found footage-y, but it definitely, like, it felt like it had a lot of heart to it, and it felt like it had like a good amount of like vision to it. It felt like really unique. And it was just like it was like a cut above a shitty found footage thing, and there were some interesting characters, and I liked what it was doing tonally a lot. So I was actually pretty excited for I Saw the TV Glow, because this is now Jane working with A24, and the cinematography looks a lot better. It looks to have a much higher budget. Unfortunately, I saw this film at Atlanta Film Festival, which was pretty cool. It's a good festival. Very small and like tight-knit kind of festival vibes. A lot of like industry people there. You can tell there's like a good community of like local filmmakers and everything. But anyway, I saw the TV Glow. I was actually kind of disappointed by it. It did not it did not connect with me as much as We're All Going to the World's Fair. And there's a lot of people that really love it. It's got an 86 Metascore, only 5.9 user rating, which is a bit more accurate for me anyway. Seems critics liked this a lot more. Usually, I'm pretty in line with the critical score, but not in this case. It is. It's essentially a movie that does this kind of like, I don't know what to call it, like liminal, like kind of weird off 90s nostalgia where the characters are remembering the show that they saw when they were a kid, but then I guess like I'm not going to spoil it, but like it's playing on the ideas of like, okay, well, like how accurate is your memory, and like are you traumatized in this way? And there's also, you know, like asexual kind of like trans subtext going on. And even though I relate to some of the things that are shown in this film, it very much left me with the impression of like, I like what this is trying to do. I like what this movie is trying to do. I like what this movie thinks it is, but to me, it just wasn't that. To me, unfortunately, it was a very slow, but not like in a thinking, like chewing on way, but like droning, like, oh my God, are you just not going to do anything sort of way? Like for the majority of it, it's very unsatisfying and like anticlimactic. It's got like a great tone, very atmospheric, like backgrounds and sound design. Like the sets are great. There's, you know, things that are captured in like a fun, uncanny way of like reliving this sort of like basic 90s show nostalgia, you know, some show for kids that's pretending to be scary or whatever. And the show in this film is called The Pink Opaque. And it's such a fucking, like, it's a bad title for characters to be saying 800 times in the movie. The Pink Opaque. So throughout the film, all these characters saying, you saw the Pink Opaque? You saw the Pink Opaque? Oh yeah, and the Pink Opaque. And it just sounds like nonsense throughout the entire movie. Like if I didn't have subtitles when I watched the trailer, I wouldn't understand what the fuck they were saying. The Pink Opaque. The Pink Opaque? The Pink Opaque? And then every single character is doing this like mumblecore line delivery, particularly Justice Smith. Like it's obviously intentional. It's obviously what they're going for, but it just really did not work for me. Justice Smith, I hadn't written him off completely, but he's been in some other things where I've just made fun of him because he's bad. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, that bad game called The Quarry. Like, he stood out in all of those things as being like, okay, you're particularly bad, even though you're in a cast of other bad actors. But I was willing to give them a shot in this movie because I liked Jane's other film. Unfortunately, Justice fucking sucked. He sucked in this movie. It was maybe the worst part about the movie was Justin Smith's acting, and especially within the last like, oh God, yeah, you're saying he did a good job in the last 10 minutes of the movie. I thought that was when it showed the most that he sucked. Oh my God. And them, I don't know. I have like vague memories of this film at this point because I saw it 3 months ago and it just did not stick with me. But, you know, in these shots where he's like pretending to be like 10 years older or whatever, like it was so unconvincing. It was so unconvincing and it just embarrassing. I was not into Justice Smith's performance at all, and that really hindered my ability to take the movie seriously for much of it. And yeah, just like every other actor in the movie seems to be able to pull off the monotonous dialogue that it's going for, that kind of mumblecore movie. Everybody else seems to be able to pull it off, but Justice just like cannot fucking do it. And it was very disappointing. Like he sucks, and he makes the movie a lot worse. Maybe I would have enjoyed it a bit more if he wasn't in it. And yeah, just a lot of things that show up in the movie of almost feeling like some sort of implied significance, or like they're showing something that's supposed to look cool, but just it doesn't. It didn't deliver for me, and it felt unearned, especially like in the greater scheme of what the film was, in the grand scheme of things. There were some awful stock door opening sound effects, is what I wrote in the movie. Connor O'Malley, in my notes, Connor O'Malley was in it. Love Connor O'Malley. He doesn't really fit the tone of this movie at all, but he was in it. Oh God, like I don't even remember this shit. This is in my notes. I was so checked out of this movie. There's apparently a very boringly filmed musical break scene. Just red lights, too low of angles. These are in my notes. I don't remember that shit at all. Yeah. I couldn't do it. It was impossible to take it seriously. It was eye-rolling and laughable by the end of it, which sucks because I thought there was a lot of potential with Jane's previous film, but hopefully they I don't know. Hopefully they make something again and it's interesting. A lot of people seem to really connect with it. Apparently it's legit parody worthy when he talks to the camera. I don't even remember him talking to the camera at this point. It's just it left my memory, and I have in all caps here, terrible cringe ending, 4 out of 10. It's been months. It's been months, and I did not connect with me. So we've got another film I saw at Atlanta Film Festival here. Let me see. Where is it? Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about Sing Sing. But I'm going to pee, so I'll be right back. I talked about Romulus at the beginning. I did not talk about Deadpool because I'm never going to watch that shit. Don't fucking trick me into seeing bullshit. Thank you. Heyo. What up? What's happening for him? I want my coffee candy. Trying to get energized here. I've been depressed as fuck for the past like 3 days. But I needed to get this out, so I've been very tired. I'm gonna eat some coffee candy to compensate here. Oh. Oh. Jon Favreau's quote from Deadpool, as in he said that in the movie, like as a character. All right, one more coffee candy, one more mic crunching, okay? And then we're going to talk about Sing Sing. Woo. All right, Sing Sing. I saw this at Atlanta Film Festival. I only saw a couple movies at Atlanta Film Festival. They had some things that were interesting in their selection, but not like as full of like programming that I would like. TIFF is going to be fucking awesome. I'm so excited for TIFF. I'm going there soon. I'll be there next week. And I'll be making like a full video for that, not this Quickie Catchup stuff. So Sing Sing is a movie that I feel like it got a lot of buzz at Sundance. And what I should have interpreted from that is that it's probably really kind of fucking Oscar baity. Because as much like there's some good things at Sundance, but whenever I hear like I should really learn to connect the audiences loved it at Sundance and audiences just can't get enough of this film at Sundance. I should really learn that what that means is it's Oscar baity. Because people at the Sundance audience fucking loves the shit out of Oscar baity nonsense. Like Coda was the last like, oh, this just got so much buzz at Sundance. It's like, okay, and then it won Best Picture at the Oscars. And then nobody talked about it ever again. I did like the trailer for this film. I thought that, the look of it was a nice choice. It looks like it's shot on film. It looks like it's almost shot in kind of like a documentary, mockumentary kind of way. Essentially, this is the story of Sing Sing is a prison, and there's a guy serving time for a crime he didn't commit. And he performs in a theater acting group. So there's like this program at Sing Sing prison, penitentiary or whatever, where they get to express themselves through stage performance and create characters and write. And I'm kind of paraphrasing the IMDb description here, but in this story of resilience, humanity, and the transformative power of art. And I feel like you could really get something good out of that. And the movie was good. I didn't regret watching it. It's an hour and 47 minutes long. It stars Coleman Domingo, he's had a few roles. He was in Euphoria, I think. Was he in Euphoria? Yeah, he was. He was in Euphoria. That's what I recognize him from. And he got nominated for an Oscar recently for Rustin, which I never saw. And the guy's really good. And he adds a lot to the movie. Now, unfortunately, in terms of like a narrative and story and pacing, it's just so fucking one note. It's just so fucking one note and repetitive. And it feels like things don't really progress naturally over the course of the film. And they just kind of stay in one place throughout the entire thing. And I was really looking forward to this movie, and I was giving it a shot. But like some of these characters just wind up appearing more like caricatures than characters, and there's a lot of great scenes within this film, or at least a few. I don't know if I'd say a lot, but just a lot of it felt like heavy-handed. Oh my god. Okay, so good thing I wrote down notes, because this is now I remember my biggest problem with this movie. The music sucked. The music sucks. It's so overwhelming and so emotionally manipulative, and just not quite there in terms of like making a good composition. And the choices for when they play music in the film just feel so cliched and inappropriate. And it's like, okay, of course Sundance audiences love this because it's just making itself to be an Oscar bait movie, and that's all it is. The best scenes are without music, and it got repetitive to the point of me not being fully engaged with it throughout the entire runtime, which sucks because I was kind of looking forward to it. Some great characters that exist, some very likable characters. But yeah, just huge chunks of the film where I feel disconnected and I'm trying to think of other things. Oh yeah, and there was a really kind of like there was a cringe line in the film where like I'm trying to remember exactly what they said. Let's see if I wrote that down. I don't remember exactly what they said, so I'm going to paraphrase it. It includes the N-word, which I'm not going to say. But like he's talking to the villain character, he's like, "What, my N-word?" And then Coleman Domingo, the main character, is like, "We gotta, don't you know? We should. We can't be calling ourselves the N-word. We got to call each other my blessed instead." And I don't know if it was blessed, but it was something that cheesy where like in the writing, like brother makes sense. Like that's a natural thing. But it was something like really, it was something like just really off that would just never work. And it was kind of clear, especially from the Q&A after, that they were kind of hoping that this thing would catch on even. Because they even said it during a Q&A, like, yo, black people, instead of calling each other the N-word, even if you mean it in an endearing way and trying to like take back the power of that word, and this is like a part of your culture or community in some parts of the culture, even though that exists, we shouldn't be doing that. Let's say my blessed instead. I don't think it was my blessed. It was something as stupid, and someone's just going to have to remind me, whoever's seen that movie, someone's going to have to remind me what they said. Maybe there'll be a clip of it online or something. It wasn't it wasn't even neighbor. It wasn't neighbor. It wasn't brother. It wasn't anything that like anyone would ever say. It felt so forced, and that was part of my problem with it. It was just beloved. Thank you. If you've seen it, I think that was it. I'm like, yeah, these hard prison inmates are now going to call each other my beloved. It's like, okay. I don't think that's going to catch on. Like, I appreciate the sentiment. It's coming from a good place. I admire that. It's very nice, but it's never going to work. It's never going to work, and it's cheesy as fuck. And it really just kind of gives off the impression of like, oh man, old white Democrats are going to love this sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, boomer Democrats are going to fucking love that shit. So, yeah, there wasn't really much of a sense of like a real journey, unfortunately. I was hoping for like a bit more of a narrative. And they had the opportunity to play with that. They had the opportunity to dramatize it in that way. But they didn't do much with it. And you kind of would expect it to if it's going to be almost 2 hours long. You know? When you're reaching the 2 hours mark almost, I would hope that there would be a bit more of like a journey narratively, but there wasn't. They did a whole Q&A after the movie. The Q&A was more interesting than the movie, to me personally. Basically, a lot of like actual inmates were like playing themselves. So people that like were actually at that prison were playing characters. That was pretty cool. And it's like a true story sort of thing, and you know, the people from it went on stage and talked about it. Yeah, my beloved. No wonder I didn't remember that. I had to write my blessed in the notes with a question mark and saying from memory. But yeah, there's some great characters in the film, and they play themselves, and so they're just some like really fun to watch, like interesting people. But I just wish they did more narratively. I wish there was more of a journey. I wish there was more of like a structure to it. It just not much wound up happening, so I was kind of disappointed. I think in my like if without the Q&A, I would have given it like a 5, but after the Q&A, I gave it a 6. I'm like, oh, you know, I like that they made those choices and stuff. But again, like it's the supplemental conversation after the film was more interesting than the films, which kind of suck. Hold on. Okay, apparently my landlord's here, so I gotta go BRB for now. I'll be back in a bit. Actually, sorry, I'm not going to play any music because some of that shit gets copyright claimed sometimes, so you're just going to have to do it without music. I don't want this to be copyright claimed, so hold on. I'll be back. And he's gone, so I don't know what the fuck he wanted. But he's terrible at communicating. Ugh. All right. Okay, what were we on? We did Sing Sing. What do we got next? Oof. Mars Express I'm going to talk about on the podcast. I've already recorded the episode, so stay tuned for that with myself and Alex. Same with Trap, which I think we published that episode already. If you want to hear me talk about Trap. We recorded an extra 40 minutes more than what you hear in the podcast. And we're going to be making like a YMS, very similar to the Saw X video. We're going to have it. We're waiting for the footage to come out, basically. Because I ranted for a long time about Trap. So Sardonicast is where you want to go to check out Trap, and also, what was the other one? Mars Express. The Mars Express episode isn't published yet. Let's see what else we got. I'm saving Ninja and the new Cool Cat thing for like an actual video. Jim Cummings. This is a very short one here because it's a short film. Jim Cummings has a new short, again on his YouTube channel. Loved it. Very funny. It is a parody of like the bureaucracy and decisions made in like Disney Marvel. He plays a character who works for them and is screening the new like Iron Man or whatever for a dying child. It's 12 minutes long. It's very funny. I did a watch along to it on stream. So if you want to watch it with anyone, I did it with Gael even. Then do that. It's only 12 minutes long. Highly recommend. 7 out of 10. Great. Very funny. Great short film. Funny scenarios. Well shot. Well acted. What else can you say? There's a film. This one's a crazy one, and I wasn't even expecting to talk about it. So I went to a party. Well, it was like a small party. It wasn't like a party, but I was invited to like a movie watch along thing, a movie night, at some people's place, and I'd never met them before. And they said a furry movie night, and I was like, okay. My expectations were like, is it going to be some anime? Going to be like some furry anime? But this is the original title of this is Mama, M-A-M-A. You can find it on IMDb as Rock and Roll Wolf, the exact way that I spelled it. It's from the year 1976. What fucking country was this from again? I forget. Oh, it's Norwegian. So it's a cult hit in Norway. Or wait, is it Norwegian? It's a cult hit in Norway. I don't think that means it's Norwegian. Country of origins: Romania, France, Soviet Union. But they're speaking English, and it's a musical. And it's like bad, but I fucking love it. It's not even like furry in the sense like it's not great anthro shit. It's very clearly like just people wearing wigs with ears in them and some face paint. So like in a like the musical Cats kind of thing, but not the Tom Hooper version. The plot is a little nonsensical. The wolf is, I don't know, trying to do something, and the kids are victims. They're like deers, and they have to sing a song to get inside the house. But here's what made me love the movie, is that the music's really good. The music is fucking odd. Like, there's a lot of bangers, like actual bangers. There's like a theme that they play over and over throughout the film of like the song that the wolf has to say to like get inside the door. It gives off vibes of like, it's like a rock opera, kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show, like Jesus Christ Superstar almost. Like the instrumentals and like the musicality, the melody, the composition, like it's all fucking fantastic. And it's not like particularly well shot or anything, but it's so fucking weird. I would recommend watching this movie on any substance. Right? And I'm not saying do a substance. I'm saying that it is accessible to do on a substance. If you are the type of person that would like to take a substance and watch a movie, this is a movie that you could. And you won't regret it. Yeah, this definitely became like a I'll go back and watch this for sure. I don't know. I wish that there's different versions on YouTube. One of them is like super high quality, but it's not the right aspect ratio. And then the other one's the right aspect ratio, but the quality's shit. So it's like you have to decide between those two. But damn, I had a really good time watching this, and it was fun to just like riff over with a group of people, furries or whatever. There was something special here. I can see why it's a cult hit. And I was impressed to not only watch something that I hadn't seen before, but for it to actually be something that I liked and got something out of, and wasn't just like a boring snooze fest. So, yeah, this was actually fun. This was actually really good. 6 out of 10. It's bad. It's bad. It's a bad movie. If I took my own like emotions out of it and just didn't love the music so much, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe. I don't know, because the music's so good. Like the plot's just nonsensical though. The plot doesn't make any sense, and it's kind of anticlimactic and just not satisfying in the way that things kind of conclude or wrap up. Oh yeah, a lot of these actors, it seems like they're also like circus performers, because they're just really doing some crazy shit, like walking on tight ropes, and like you can tell it's the actors because you can just see them in the entire frame. It's not like a stunt double or anything. A lot of it is just like people running around, dancing, playing, and singing with some very loosely tied together plot. I would like to watch this again, like now. Like I would just watch this again, like I'd watch it again tonight, sort of thing. You know, it was great. I could just watch it again. Maybe I'll watch it again tonight. Maybe I'll do a watch along. We'll see what happens. I haven't watched Strange Darling yet. If I do see it, it'll be in the next few days. But I am busy as fuck getting ready for TIFF and everything, so I don't know. The director of Mars Express directed a music video called DYE Fantasy. I'm just going to put the spelling up on the screen here. It's a classic old YouTube music video, but you can't find it on YouTube because it's too cool for YouTube. It's too explicit for YouTube, so you have to find it on Vimeo. And there's an official upload on Vimeo. And this is a great music video. It's one of the best music videos ever. Fantastic animation. It's traumatizing, which is good. I like a good traumatizing type experience. So There's your warning. But great music, fucking incredible music video, just really cool. We talk about that a bit more in the podcast too, that we recorded yesterday and won't be out for like another week or so. But let's see. This one I talked a bit about on stream, but I think we can do. Actually, we'll save this one for the end. Yeah, let's do this one instead. Hold on. We got two more here. Sausage Party Foodtopia is the new Sausage Party, the SPU, the SPCU show. It's on Amazon. I wrote some notes for it. I started watching episode 1 after finishing Invincible season 2. And let me tell you, this was kind of refreshing from just me paying attention sort of point of view of like me feeling invested. Not that I was invested in the story, because I definitely wasn't, but invested in the disaster of what it was. Because Invincible season 2 was so fucking boring for me, and I was just like struggling to pay attention throughout the like, especially the second half of that. And so when Sausage Party Foodtopia came on, I was like, wow, this is bad, but it's like kind of interesting how bad it is. What's weird about this show, what's insane about this show, is that it has the original cast. So Seth Rogen's in it, Kristen Wiig's in it, Edward Norton's in it, Michael Cera's in it, Will Forte's in it. I don't know if was Will Forte in the original? I don't know. But it's got like a fucking star-studded cast, which leads me to believe that they thought that this would be a lot more successful than it was. Right now, it's got 3.3 thousand ratings on IMDb. The original Sausage Party film, I'm going to assume, has like 100,000. Because that was like a popular movie, obviously, to greenlight it. 214,000 ratings for the original Sausage Party film, 2016. So Amazon got the rights to this. Seth Rogen made the show. I guess he produced it. Seth Rogen's producing a shit ton of shows on Amazon right now. So this takes place pretty much immediately after the events of the first film. And now it's the Foods trying to live in a world without humans. Humans. Most of the humans are dead. It's an animation that's simultaneously like presenting itself as if it's for adults, but it's written as if it's for children. Like the level of how explicit it is obviously not appropriate for children, but the quality of the writing is very much identical to like a kid's show, but not in a way that seems self-aware, like it's satirizing it. It's not like Wonder Chosen, right? It's not satirizing children's television. It's just like, oh, this is bad writing. This is bad writing, and you made this for people that don't care. Or maybe they know that like most people who would probably want to watch this are probably young because, you know, like let's say like 15 or something, you know, they would really gel with the humor in this, where it's like, what if food, but they said fuck and they fucked. Like, that's basically the premise of the show, which I mean was the premise of the film. But I was still more entertained watching this than Invincible, because I was kind of rage watching it. I was definitely experiencing anger, which was like at least an experience, you know, like I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, actually, I was like looking at it. I was paying attention. And I was soaked into just how dumb it was. Whenever they have like a plot point or a plot device or something that affects the characters in any meaningful way, it always feels like it comes out of nowhere. It's always terribly justified. The logistics just never make any sense. Obviously, I guess I'm expecting too much from fucking Sausage Party Foodtopia, but It's literally a sex show for children. Is the way to describe. It's a sex show for children. It's kids show caliber writing and entertainment. And the only part of this show that I was impressed by, but I was also more confused than I was impressed, was at the end of one episode. And if you don't want to watch the show and you just want to see the end of this episode, I wrote it down in my notes. It's at the end of episode 4. The end credits of episode 4 was a parody of the end of Call Me By Your Name. And they played the same song, and the credits had the same the same font and color. And I was like, what? What are we doing? What? But then I started to clue in. I was like, why would they parody Call Me By Your Name here? And it gets so fucking deep, and it's insane how I even wound up eventually understanding this. This took me like fucking 5 minutes of just being like, why would they do this? It's because there's like a scene of a guy who has resorted to like cannibalizing because there's one Humie left, but the food doesn't want to give him food. So they give him like a foot of another Humie. Because food are people. And so he's eating the foot and crying. And, you know, like at the end of Call Me By Your Name, the character's crying. Spoilers, not really, without context. But then I was like, oh, it's because he's a cannibal. And they're referencing Armie Hammer being a cannibal who was in Call Me By Your Name. Which is a long way to go, and I think maybe I'm the only person that understood that joke, that even understood what was being referenced. Like, 3.3 thousand ratings on IMDb. I think the target audience maybe found it, as in, like, just people, children surfing through Amazon Video, Prime Video, and then wanting to watch a children's sex show. I don't think they would ever get... I don't think they would know that something was being referenced and then understand what was being referenced and then understand why it was being referenced. But that was as impressed as I ever got by the show, but I was still more confused because it doesn't make like it's such a reach for what it's going for, and it just is. I don't know what to say about it. There's a lot of really cringe puns. I wrote down some quotes for some of them. Oh, God. The dialogue was fucking terrible. Let's see. 21 minutes and 10 seconds through episode 4. Any food lutions for how we can solve this problem? Like, that's so lazy. That's so lazy and pathetic. Like solutions. They had a lot of song parodies, but there were so many licensed tracks in this show that the budget for this must have been insane. What I would love to find out is the budget for this show, because it feels like they spent as much on this show as they did the film, maybe more. They were obviously expecting it to be a fucking hit because every single episode had like 3 licensed songs in it. Like fucking Barracuda, and they were at least trying to make food name parodies out of the songs at points, but like they clearly spent a lot of money. Dust in the Wind. As the show went on, in the second half of it, it started to actually have a story, as in it didn't just feel like every episode was just like food and sex and that's what they swear, and so they were actually crafting a narrative, and there was like a mystery and like a villain and like a goal, you know. And at that, in the second half of this show, I was less interested because as it was starting to like just be like other shows, I was just kind of getting bored. But I finished it, and I would give it a 3 out of 10. So 3 out of 10 for Sausage Party Foodtopia. Very cringe. fascinatingly cringe, less boring than Invincible season 2. All right, and then this is the last one I'm talking about, and my voice is dying also. So, this is a fucking gem, and apparently I retweeted this. I'll read the super chats after too. Obviously, I retweeted this. There's an official movie account for this film called Lumina, on Twitter, and let's see where it is. Yeah, Lumina the movie is their Twitter account, and they say back in theaters September 20th, which doesn't make any sense. This is a film that's so bad. This is like an easy 1 out of 10 film, and the only reason I saw it is because there were some people that saw it somehow and found out that it's like a so bad that it's good movie. They're like, oh, okay, this is actually hilarious. It's got a 6 Metascore, like 6 out of 100 Metascore. It's directed by Gino McCoy, and the entire movie is basically like a vehicle to promote his pop music. So he wrote a bunch of pop songs and performed a bunch of pop songs that just show up in the film. And, you know, there'll be a scene where like, oh, we're running from the Men in Black. And then they're just in a mall. And it's like, okay, why are they in a mall now? Like looking at, I thought they were running from someone. They're just like looking at clothes. Oh, it's so they can play another pop song in the background because the director's trying to push his pop music on everybody. There's a scene in the movie where they're in an RV, and it almost leans into this like, oh, the radio's broken. Is something paranormal happening? Is this aliens doing this to the radio? Like it almost as if it was going to be scary. But then it plays more pop music from the director. And just it's all bad. It's all shitty pop music. Like terribly produced. It's reminiscent of like Corey Feldman. Like very, very reminiscent of Corey Feldman's music. And the main characters are in this RV. They're like, oh, do we have to listen to this the whole way? And then within, I don't know, over the course of minutes, so like within a few seconds, within like 15 seconds, the characters are starting to warm up to the music. They go like, actually, this is pretty good. Actually, I love this. Where can I? And like one of the characters literally pulls out their phone to Shazam the music, to remind the audience to Shazam the music in the theater, basically. And yeah, they're literally singing along and like clapping to a song that they've never heard before in the context of the movie, but it's fucking hilarious. And I would categorize this as a so bad that it's good movie, but it's not quite Neil Breen. It's not quite there for like, oh yeah, this is, you know, if you're riffing on it with friends, it's great. We were in an empty theater when we saw this. There was one other person that showed up in the theater about 20 minutes through the film, and I was like, damn it. Because then it's like, now we can't laugh as loud sort of thing. And within 5 minutes of him sitting down, with a full bag of popcorn, by the way, within 5 minutes of him sitting down, we heard the loudest fucking snoring. He fell asleep immediately. And then that became just a part of the experience. And that was fun. That one other person in the theater that showed up late, full bag of popcorn, and just like just fucking passed the fuck out for the entire movie. So I don't know if he didn't have the full bag of popcorn, I would have assumed he came to the movie to take a nap. Like that was the place that he wanted to go to sleep. But because he came there with a full bag of popcorn, I can't believe that. Let's see. What? I haven't even pulled up my notes for Lumina because this was all from memory. Here we go. I found them very quickly. Oh God, yeah. The way that they characterize these characters, the way that they show these characters on screen, there's two characters that are supposedly in a relationship, and the way that they communicate with each other, it's like, okay, you've never met each other. You're pretending to hug. It looks like you've never hugged a human being before. It looks like so painfully awkward. Was it funnier than Madam Web? No. No, it wasn't. But it was worse. And it was... Madam Web is a movie that you can see in a theater and be like, yes, I understand that this is the result of superhero movies, late stage Sony, and we all know how we got there. Lumina is a movie where if you see it in a theater, you wonder why you were even allowed to see it in a theater. You wonder why this was even an option of something you could buy a ticket for at an actual theater like an AMC. Like it was confusing. It was funny. Part of the joke of seeing this movie is the idea that we're even allowed to pay for a ticket for this movie and see it in a theater. The poster is very misleading because most of it is just people yapping. Most of the movie is a flashback. I would say 95% of the movie is a flashback. Yeah. Let's see if I can pull up some other notes here. Yeah, really awkward. Basically, I'm really glad that I knew that the director was using this as a vehicle to promote his pop music before going into it, because that just added to the humor for me. Because they keep playing this like sexy girl song over and over again, and it's just like, okay, I would be more confused if I didn't know that. Yeah, damn. Like, the movie starts out like on Mars or something. And it's like, oh, this is gonna be a space horror. And then it's like, how many years earlier or whatever? 6 months earlier. It's like, okay, I guess we're getting a flashback. And then 20 minutes go by and it's like, oh, we're still in the flashback, by the way. Like, you kind of have to remind yourself of that. And then another 20 minutes go by. It's like, we're still in the flashback and we're not in space. And people are just kind of dicking around. And then it's the whole movie, basically. Basically, the whole movie goes on like that. And it doesn't catch up until like the very end. There's a character named Tatiana, and she's at a party, and there are two other girls at the party who are like bad-mouthing her behind her back. They're like, I don't like Tatiana, and I actually am very attracted to the main male character. And if Tatiana wasn't there, I'd be dating him. He only likes her for the sex, which is like a weird thing to say about someone. Like, have you had sex with her? Like, have you watched them have sex? What do you mean they only like her for the sex? Like, I don't know how you came to that conclusion. And then one of them says, I wish she would just disappear. And then aliens abduct her outside. And but when aliens abduct, it's like a flash, and like their wine starts floating with like a really bad effect. And something that like seems like it wasn't even planned for, because the characters don't react to it. None of them go like, whoa, the wine's floating. Like, it seems like it's just happened. It's like an idea that they added in post that they were never intending on doing. And then, the windows get smashed in from like the force outside. And then these like British cops show up, even though it's set like in LA or something. It's set in America. And these British cops show up. They're like, do you know what happened here? And they're like, she got abducted. Something crazy happened. Something paranormal. There's probably aliens. He's like, were you smoking marijuana? And then they leave. And it's like, well, the glass was broken from the outside. There's glass all over the floor. Like, obviously something happened. The police came to the conclusion that she just like left or something, and that there was no incident at all. Yeah. There's one girl who throughout the entire film, like, I guess the director was like, oh damn, like in her audition she probably cried, and he was like, damn, you're a really good crier. And he got her to cry for most of her scenes. So most of her scenes she's just like kind of wheeze crying, like and so, like, any excuse they get to have this character crying in the movie, that she just keeps returning to it. Anyway, some amount of time goes by. Main character guy is like, my girlfriend's gone. I'm sad. And so he decides to contact his friend, who is like this very odd, like definitely playing up the token black type character guy, but he's also wearing like a Steve Irwin kind of safari outfit. And he's like, I'm the government conspiracy guy. And he goes to him for help. And they decide to try and find Tatiana by renting an RV and kind of just like aimlessly running around in the desert. They like find another conspiracy guy, Eric Roberts, who's in the movie for like, I don't know, 5 minutes. But he gets top billing on IMDb and some of the promotional material. And then they just, they're like aimlessly driving through the desert, and then they go to another country. I forget where they wind up. I saw this movie a few months ago. It's fucking hilarious. Like this could be like a bigger review. I hope more people talk about it, because the types of things that I feel like I could talk about, like they're just kind of piling up, and I don't have time to like get back into the full swing of things until like November. Yeah, they flew to Morocco. I don't have time to get into the full swing of things again until November. Because TIFF, and then I'm moving, which is gonna suck. But anyway, very funny film. I won't tell you, too much about it, I guess. There's a bit more. There's me talking about it while I'm playing the game Chained Together with Torkin. I do like a bit more of a summary. And it was from memory, too. And I talked a lot more about it. So if you want to hear me summarize most of the film there, it's in one of those parts. I wonder if I could get Sonex to like go through it. Maybe. Like make a highlight or something. But anyway, now, apparently, according to their Twitter account, it's back in theaters on September 20th. For no reason. And I don't understand how it could get back in theaters. I don't understand why I was able to see it in theaters when it was out. I saw it in like August. And it's coming back to theaters September 20th. I was hoping for it to get a digital release, honestly. I don't know how it's allowed in theaters. Watch the trailer. It's fucking terrible. And now they're leaning into the whole like, ooh, it's a cult movie without explicitly stating like that it's a cult movie because it's bad. that it's a bad cult movie. Like, what are these quotes from? I'm looking at this trailer right now that they posted on Twitter. These are not real quotes. These look like made up quotes. Are we gonna have to archive this? There's no way. There's no way these are real quotes. Outstanding cinematography and visual effects by quote Debbie Lynn Elias, Rotten Tomatoes critic. Okay, let's find you. Rotten Tomatoes, Lumina. I don't believe anybody said that. Okay. Tomato meter 0%. Okay? Tomato meter 0% for critics. When they say Rotten Tomato critics, do you mean on the popcorn meter from audience score? Because I'm about to go through this and find it. And when I find that shit, if this is even a real quote, that's fucking insane. Debbie. It's not even here. I just went through the whole thing. All audience. Okay. All audience. What about all critics? Control F for Debbie on all audience and all critics. Scroll to the bottom. Nothing shows up. So they're using fake quotes in their trailer on Twitter. Lumina the movie. What do you mean Rotten Tomatoes critic? They're not there. So I guess I'm going to download and archive this because maybe I'll talk about it later, or maybe I'll use it in like something. Oh yeah, Olivia can't do that now because she's moving. Sonex anywhere? Can I archive a Twitter video with 4K video downloader? I'm going to try that right now. Video, this site is unsupported. Can I download it with Wondershare? Because, yeah, they're literally using fake quotes in their trailer now. But in a way that seems like more malicious than how Megalopolis did it. Because Megalopolis was clearly somebody just checked Chat GPT and thought it was real. Which is hilarious. All right, let's see. Is this going to work? Download, download, download. Anyway, if you want to see a funny movie in a theater called Lumina, oh, there's a download option right here. I have to only X premium subscribers can download videos. Fuck yourself, Elon. Go fuck yourself. Not doing it. I'm going to find another way. Can someone download and archive? I'm going to post the link in the chat. And then just post it to my subreddit or something so I can use it for later. Yeah, I'll post this in the chat right now. This is the trailer. Oh, that's not. Oops, maybe later. That was the verified link. Oops, that was the pop-up I got. I didn't realize it created a new URL when it did that. Okay, here's the actual one. Twitter.com, Lumina the movie. This trailer, somebody archive it for me, please. Find a way to download it. And then post it on the subreddit. And people will upvote it. You'll get free karma. It's not free because you're doing work, but, you know. Because they're literally using fake quotes. Like, I couldn't find this. The sci-fi from Dusk Till Dawn says Trevor Shand from Bloody Disgusting. Let's see if I can find that. Trevor Shand Bloody Disgusting Lumina. No results. No results on Google. These are fake quotes. We have to archive this. What if I go to... Does archive like .is do Twitter videos? Anyway, I talked about Romulus at the beginning, so just fucking scroll back in the thing. All right, so I'm going to go through the super chats. Lumina, easy 1 out of 10. Very funny. But don't expect Neil Breen because it's not. It's more boring than that. All right, what do we got here? Some super chats. Have I watched Strange Darling? Thought it was interesting. Thank you, Noon Leben. I have not seen it yet. It's on my list. I might see it this week. Hollow Pox Me says, I loved the movie, 8.5 compared to the other movies, and I thought the fan service was dumb. I know Fede is a big fan of the series, but come on, lol. Come on, lol, me having my opinion? Okay, well, thanks for the 5 BRL, Brazilian, like fake money. Silhouetted Animator. Marvel weirdly made the Alien franchise part of their multiverse. It's Earth 94415. Ew. Also, Ren and Stimpy, Alf, and Heathcliff are Marvel Earths too. Oh, interesting. Thank you. MKA1294. Is the Alien series getting stale? Yes. Now, particularly. Riley Weston. Hi, Adam. Longtime fan. Thanks for being a great part of my life. Take care and happy Shrek. Thank you so much, Riley. Thank you. I appreciate it. Alexander Guerrero. Do you have any short films one can check? I mentioned one earlier. Jim Cummings has on his YouTube channel. It's called Is Now the Right Time? Is that what it was called? He's got a couple short films on his YouTube channel. There's one called The Brunch. They're really fun. They're good comedies. And then I also mentioned DYE:fantasy, a great music video on Vimeo, directed by Jeremy Perrin, who recently made his first feature called Mars Express, which was also awesome. Chase Firth says, shout out Ralph and Love on a Leash, Rip Scoot. Thank you so much. Michael, have you Have you regret last July wanting to collab with Mr. Beast? Also, thoughts on the drama and open secrets of Mr. Beast's company and allegorations? Do you mean allegations? I mean, I've just kind of seen summary. Like, why would I regret? Why would I regret saying before the accusations came out, "Hey, put me in a video. Why didn't you do that?" Especially in a video where I'm already very critical of his character and I've already been very open about, just like, oh, a lot of people like you probably because you have money, sort of thing, and not really buying the whole thing, seeing it as like very performative. So no, I don't regret that. I don't know what thoughts I could possibly have because I haven't done my own research on it. I've just seen other people summarize it. So I don't know. It's bad. I don't know what I could add to the conversation. Thank you, though. Dr. Kubrick says, I used to work with you at Best Buy. Keep killing. Thank you so much. I wonder exactly who in my memory you were, but I appreciate it. There's a few people, but Michael Mann 2000. Can you explain Synecdoche tweet today, Adam? Well, I've been cripplingly depressed for the past few days and am on the dating scene again and had a bad experience and then resonated with the themes of the film, and then that song popped up in my head and then I decided to tweet it. So it wasn't trying to hype for an upcoming part, which is coming, but I wasn't trying to generate hype. I was just kind of sad. So Silhouetted Armor, $2. Lumina's production history was also hellish. Nice. I would like to get a good summary of the dumpster fire. CJ Soprano, $5. Thank you so much. Christopher Brickner. Metacritic hasn't revealed how they aggregate their reviews. I average all Alien Romulus movies on Metacritic, and the average is 67, but Metacritic says 64. Yeah, there's definitely an algorithm that isn't like public on it, but I feel like it works better than Rotten Tomatoes. Mugen Inc. Wow, dude, YMS. Thank you so much. CJ Soprano. Just wanted to say you're a huge inspiration and the reason I started my channel. Any advice for a new reviewer? Love you, Adam. You're the best. If you're going to critique other things, be your own toughest critic as well, in a way that is not debilitating, but in a way that you can improve. So even if you're entirely ripping off somebody for your first few videos just to get your own footing, look at those videos, be like, oh, what can I change about them? Think hard about what you would like to change about your own videos or why something might not work. Your first video is not going to be incredible. It's just not. You have to refine what you do, and in order to do that, you have to create something and put it out there. And you might get helpful criticism from other people that maybe you didn't recognize. And then part of growing and being able to critique yourself healthily is the idea of being able to separate criticism, like unhelpful criticism from people who are just like, you suck, from people who are actually giving constructive criticism or like legitimate criticism, So Agus, thank you so much. I don't know what ARS converts to, but am I excited for the third Sonic movie? It comes the same day as Mufasa, so you can watch it both on the same day. Well, those are Christmas. Those are what, December 20th? I don't think I'm going to be watching any movies in theaters on Christmas because I think I'm going to be visiting my family. So, and I don't think I'm going to be concerned with that. I don't think I saw Sonic 2, so I don't know. I don't think I'm going to I don't think I'm going to watch the third Sonic movie. I don't think I saw the second one. Tomas Giaveno. Hi, Adam. Thank you for not only suggesting phenomenal films that I might not have known because of you, but also making me laugh a lot and reflect on my life in a positive manner. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I very much appreciate it. All right. And I think that's it. Except for one more that just got posted. Been watching the channel for years. Love the content. Sad that you were leaving Atlanta. Thank you so much, Jacob. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably visit again, but yeah, I can't afford to pay 2 rents, or technically 3 at once anymore. So just, yeah, it didn't make any sense, but all right, that's it. Thank you so much for hanging out for the stream. I might do like a watch along either later today or tomorrow. I don't know. Things are kind of up in the air. All right, one last one from Peanut Butticelli. Speaking of bad dating experience, what's something you immediately makes you lose interest in someone? The problem is getting an interest in the first place. There's very few people that I'm like actually attracted to, which sucks. I would say that's more of a struggle, is like becoming interested in anyone in the first place. But I don't know, losing interest. If I'm interested in someone, what makes me immediately lose interest is if they're not interested in me, because it has to be reciprocal, right? So, thank you. Also, I can't pronounce your username, but thanks for the $2. All right. Thank you, everybody. I very much appreciate it. There are some things on the Patreon right now. And there will be another one soon. So there was like, I talked about the OnlyFans show. Like somebody made like a dumb web show on OnlyFans. So we took that conversation and we got edited video with it. It's technically not pornographic, but it's pornographic enough that we can't post it on YouTube. So that's a Patreon exclusive. That'll be up soon. I posted the original files for the Unfriended review there because the ones on YouTube have bad audio because of an unresolved copyright claim. Same for the original Nanoland video. I posted a Patreon exclusive YMS Watches Over the Hedge just because I didn't feel like it fit on the main channel, especially as I'm talking about like getting content back to classic shit and trying to focus over like quality over quantity. Thank you so much, Nusira. Thanks. Hi, I love your channel. Your opinions and openness on being a furry made me open myself a lot. Thank you so much. Glad to have helped. So yeah, patreon.com/YMS. You can find most of the same things if you want to be a member on YouTube, I guess, but Patreon is where you find the most of the perks. We have voting power for watch-alongs. You can decide which movie I watch. I'm going to be posting a new poll for that soon in the next couple of days. And also, for anything that has nudity in it, we can have that on Patreon. Like a movie has tits in it, we have that on Patreon. So even if you're members on YouTube, you can't access full nudity because just YouTube doesn't allow it on the platform. So, all right, thanks everybody. Yeah, if you want my thoughts on Romulus, I said it at the beginning, so you're gonna have to watch this over again. Sorry. Thanks for hanging out, and I might be live later, but not on this channel. You're gonna have to figure out where else. Telegram.me/YMS Telegram. Sorry, t.me/YMS Telegram is the link. Is where I usually post where I'm going to be live, and you can find the links to like the Twitch. You can find the links to the Watch-Alongs channel and stuff. All right, I'm going to end it. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Love you. Bye-bye.